request. I've put in for 2 additional trucks, and again, that certainly isn't without weighing. I'm sure you felt like the investment was enough to get us through, but when I do an analysis of where our current fleet is, we have 8 total trucks, and 4 of those trucks have over 200,000 miles on them, and 2 of those trucks have over 250,000 miles on them. So I think if we don't get 2 trucks in this upcoming budget cycle, you will have to get 2 trucks in the next budget cycle, and they never get cheaper. So that's why that request is there again this year. But I think with those 2 additional trucks, I have a fleet plan that will allow us to scale back to 1 truck a year for a capital replacement plan, and we'd be pretty healthy there. So in addition to the Silver Street request in the upcoming budget to transfer to 24-hour operations, I've also put in a request to have the supervisors backfill their positions to get them off the trucks. We're the only county in the Midlands area that still has our supervisors on the truck in EMS, and I think a lot of the issues that we've all heard about and been told about in the EMS world come from the fact that those guys simply can't be successful at doing multiple jobs, right? And doing the compliance and accountability stuff is super important. And again, I think it brings us up to par with where all our neighboring counties are. If you look at Saluda County at the moment, they're pretty similar in structure to what we are, and their supervisors are off trucks. Their pay is equivalent to where our pay is currently for our folks. They're fully staffed, and they have a waiting list of folks who want to come work there. If you look at Fairfield County, fairly similar in size and structure of the organization. They're fully staffed with a waiting list of folks who want to come work there, and their supervisors aren't on trucks either. So I think it's important that we certainly look at those things and consider those things for the upcoming budget cycle. And that's actually the only other thing I wanted to update you guys on is we've made some adjustments to how we're going to handle mutual aid for neighboring counties. What we're seeing a lot of times is they're calling us just because they have an extended ETA for low acuity calls. So we're taking resources out of our area to run resources in somebody else's county that aren't of a high acuity nature. So we have since started a policy internally where we aren't responding to any low acuity calls outside of Newberry County to keep those resources here for our citizens. So outside of that, that's really all my updates. I'll be happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Those 2 ambulances that you got is over 200,000 miles. Do you know what year model they are?
I don't have that fleet list right in front of me. I could certainly provide that for you. But mostly when you look at fleet replacement plans, most of them don't really go off a year, so the age of the resource isn't as important as the number of miles you put on the resource. And so they have 250 actual miles on them, but the other part you have to consider is Ford. It's the only data I've ever really seen, so that's why I reference it. But Ford says for every hour of idle time, it's equivalent to an additional 20 miles traveled. So when you take that 250, and if we were to dare pull the idle time hours off of that, I mean, we're probably talking 350,000 miles on those trucks. So,
yeah, I was just curious how long it took us to get 200,000 miles on them in our fleet replacement.
Depending on, because the county is so different, right? The zone 1 there in the city is much different than the other 3 zones, and Silver Street's much different than the other 2. It just depends on where the truck sits, but the fleet average per year is 30 to 40,000 miles.
Okay, great. Do you have anything, Carl?
Nothing else.
I thank you for all your service and appreciate your help.
Thank you, gentlemen, for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. All right, recent winter storm response. Chris Johnson, Board of Rescue Squads.
Good afternoon. Just wanted to highlight some things from the last 2 winter storms where we were really happy with where the squads were and their response, and so we just wanted to kind of present that to you just so you knew what your volunteers were doing. During those 2 weekends, all of the squads combined responded to 38 calls for service, 16 ambulance responses or transports. During the peak of the storm, the chiefs and other departments heads, we all agreed that, you know, for the low acuity calls, we would either not respond in ambulance or we were going to respond QRVs first, and not chase ambulances with another ambulance. And so we scaled back that and used our four-wheel drives to kind of prioritize calls at that point. A minimum of 30 members were standing by at the stations during the peak of the storm, and that number peaked up to 40 volunteers staffing our stations and ready to respond as needed. Station 13 averaged 2 to 3 personnel. Station 14, during the ice storm, we managed between 5 and 8, and at least 5 24 hours a day. On the snowstorm, we averaged 4 to 5 personnel during the snow and 4 24 hours a day. We assisted with establishing the emergency shelter and keeping check on them. Station 15 was manned with 1 to 5 personnel at times Saturday to Sunday of the snowstorm. And they were actually, I think, one of the more impressive stories, I won't say more impressive, but one of the great stories out of it. They responded to an MVA and were able to bring 2 of the uninjured individuals back to their station out of the weather and take care of them until they could get rides. And so I think that was a big deal for what they did, and I applaud them. Station 16 was manned for a total of 7 days between the 2 storms with a minimum of 3 personnel at all times. Station 17 had 3 personnel manning their station. Station 18 averaged 10 personnel manning their station both weekends, and they have one of the four-wheel drive ambulances, and so they were out and ready to respond. Station 19 averaged 8 personnel manning their station, and also with a four-wheel drive truck, and that is one that, you know, we have been coming year after year, and I think Tommy talked about that truck's over 25 years old, and I want to detail a call that will highlight why their truck needs to be replaced this coming budget year as well. During the ice storm, Station 18 and 19 responded to 1 wreck with an entrapment that resulted in pretty serious injuries for that victim. Station 19, along with EMS, responded to a cardiac arrest on the Sunday of the snowstorm. They were able to get a pulse back, and Station 19's ambulance, Medic 191, had to transport that patient to Columbia in the snowstorm. And so 25-year-old truck, they need to be at the top of that list as well this coming year to have that truck replaced. But I was very impressed with the volunteers and what they were able to accomplish for this county during that snowstorm, away from home, you know, away from, you know, their loved ones, and they were committing that time to this county. So I think they all need to be applauded for that.
Sure.
That's all I have. Thank you.
I'd like
Any
to thank
questions?
you also for coming to the debriefing. I saw other chiefs at the debriefing too. It worked out real well. Information was flowing well. Yeah, we're gonna work on it and improve it, but thank you for your help. Thank you for all your stations for assistance with it.
Well, we appreciate y'all's support. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Carl, you have anything?
Just thank you for your great work supporting the
Thank you.
county's citizens.
That's what we're here for. We enjoy it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, presentation from Joe Palmer, Friendly Fire Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of council, Mr. Luckadoo. I appreciate the opportunity to come and kind of cap off and summarize some work that each of you have independently are aware of the fact that I've been working on over the past several months. This fall, I was elected by the membership of Friendly to become the next volunteer fire chief for that system. Honored to do so, but one of the things that was a commitment to me on my part to fulfill the obligations of that position was to do an in-detailed assessment of, where our station and where our system fail and lie, what our strengths and weaknesses, and the things that we would need to work on as members to prepare for the members of this community that we serve. In doing so, I met with our members. I was able to meet with county staff, 2 very capable employees that are sitting here behind me, to glean a wealth of information from them. I followed that up by meeting on several occasions with the county administrator, with Mr. Shacker, and trying to glean the vision of future for him, and continued on with my council members as well. And then increased that by reaching out to my mutual aid partners, because obviously Friendly doesn't operate in an isolated area. We share resources and personnel with a number of systems throughout this county. And in doing so, I found a number of things that weren't new to me, but that were extremely prevalent, things that had existed for the time that I have had to be able to spend with Newberry County, but then just keeps repeating itself. I started with Newberry County's fire services, both city and county, back in 1994. So I've had some participation at some level throughout that time period. Being in the fire service 41 years and having the great fortune of being able to work all across this state, I felt like that I was able to glean and utilize that experience to come to a lot of very harsh conclusions about some frailties that existed within our system. And I approached our members, I approached our mutual aid partners and others, and eventually we reached out and have done so with the Board of Rural Fire Control and pretty much every fire chief in the county. Not so much that we were trying to get consensus or develop a written plan or something that's going to come to you for adoption, but something that I felt like was very important for us to get our solid feet on the ground of what's happening in Newberry County. We've got 264 volunteer firemen in this county that are some of the greatest people in the world. For the most part, I'd give any of them a key to my house and say, I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks, take care of things, with the full assurance that these individuals were salt of the earth people. They are some of the most hard-working, giving individuals that anybody would want to stack up against any other citizen of this county, state, or country. And none of the points are to belittle that. It's more of an assessment and a reality and a pulse, if you will, of actually what's going on with those 264 individuals. One of the interesting stats that come out of those 264 people that was able to be provided by your county staff is that I believe my number is correct when I said that there were 94 of those individuals who are certified, trained interior structural firefighters through our state fire academy. And again, what I found was interesting is that many of those individuals certified and trained are members of duplicate fire departments around the state, I mean in the county. You may be a member of this station, that station, the other station, and the same would be true even of the rescue squads. Great working relationship. A lot of their people are our people, vice versa. So again, it reinforced for me that it's not a weakness of the willingness of the individuals or the capability of the individuals, because I think that there's a lot of people out there that's really working hard for Newberry County. And I as a taxpayer and a citizen, I greatly appreciate it. I need that. I rely on that. But nonetheless, when you start looking at factual information about what exists numerically with the resources, some of it's quite shocking. And it's really a three-legged stool. There are considerations that have to go in with hard locations, physical locations of the equipment of our rolling stock fire stations, the actual rolling stock itself, and then nonetheless the people, the staffing that goes along in this three-legged stool. And the problem is a weakness in any of those legs makes our platform unstable. And our county fire service was started in 1963. There were some towns that had, certainly city and the towns that had departments before then, but our rural fire service was organized from 1961 to 63. And as soon after it was organized in 1963, the county and city government employed the services of a consultant to come in and look at this service and make recommendations. And so in 1973, 10 years after that was done, some pretty harsh recommendations were made. And you'd be interested to know that the Council of Governments did the study, that some of the things that still exist today that I'm going to talk about in a few minutes were in that original document. And I'm afraid what's happened to us in the fire service, and arguably, I'm not an expert rescue squad side, but I would say from my assessment, happening with that is probably reflected in my favorite piece of literature is a culmination of books, and one of the books was written to a Greek town in Corinth, and the author of this thing in the 9th chapter of it said, if you sow poorly, so you will reap poorly. But if you sow generously, so shall you reap generously. And I'm here to tell you that the resources that we have sown for Newberry County over the past 3 decades have been poorly sown. And we're reaping the rewards for that. Now, you can make an assumption and blame of whoever you want to You can point your finger, you can give stats and reasons for the financial condition or the willingness of whoever to embrace it. It's irrelevant to me, really. I know it exists. I've lived through most of it, and I know it to be true. And what's happened to us now is because of decades of sowing poorly, we're in a massive hole right now in emergency services in this county that I don't dare speak for the others that have come before me, but it just simply exists. And now the bad part about it is I am laying before you tonight the reality that's going to be very harsh for administration and for council to try to figure a way out of. It's costly. It's painful. And quite frankly, one of the things that you're going to find, because we have 264 very capable, able, trained, participating individuals, is you're going to find 264 different ideas of the way to do things. And I don't claim to, in the things that I am presenting, to be able to give you all those 264 ideas. And I think that everybody you talk to is probably going to have a different idea of something to talk about. So what I've tried to do is I've tried to assemble 8 core things that I think are at a fundamental of some of our problems. Now, that's not going to address all of the issues that people are going to bring before you. I know your phones have been ringing off. I know people have been hitting you up over the past month because they knew what I was talking about and what I was dealing with. Some of it is very unpopular. Some of it has been maligned from this podium recently and scoffed at, and I can accept that because I'm a big boy. I can handle those kind of emotions. My retort to that simply, though, is not to compete on that level, simply to provide you with statistics, number, and data. And there are a couple of points that I have assessed that immediately shocked me that I want to share with you, not in hyperbole, not in what I think, but in real-time numbers. I told you earlier that one of the things I had was an opportunity to go sit down with county staff. And so sitting with county staff at a county-owned computer, using county paper to print off documents, using county software that we all own together, I generated numbers that reflect what is actually the performance of the departments in county fire. Now, a lot of people have wanted to dispute that and claim that these numbers are in error. I don't, and certainly not from a public forum being recorded would I dare do that, because these are legal documents. If we are subpoenaed in a court of law, civil, criminal, or whatever the case may be, these are the documents which we will have to present. If local media, WKDK or Newberry Observer, FOIA'd us tonight, this is what they would get. So this is a legal document. Who creates these numbers? These numbers are created by the individuals, many of those 264 people across this county, sit down at some form of computer terminal after a call and they enter data in. Joe didn't come up with these numbers. I didn't create them. But I would like to draw your attention to a few of them, Mr. Chairman, if I may approach and be able to provide you a copy.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
First document that I offer to you is simply a head count, an average head count of building fire participation for Newberry County for the year of 2025. Now, what this is an average. Again, a lot of people have wanted to joke and laugh and make issue of the fact of how do you get half a person or 0.1 or 2 of a person. Well, it's math. It's called averaging. And when you get odd numbers, when you average, you get fractions of the number. But this is building fires broken down by department, showing the average number of people that show up to those fires. Now, average means that the high end of that, if it's, let's just use Friendly as an example, our number was 1.89 average, which means we had 5 or 6 at some calls, but obviously at some point we had some low numbers as well. I'm not proud of that, but again, it's a truth. I didn't dream up what Prosperity Fire Department had. You see it there in front of you. And again, this is the legal, binding, factual document that firefighters around this county created and have done, and that I merely copied. And that is those are some shocking numbers, because now what these individuals, hardworking individuals, have to do is they have to respond to a call to the station possibly, and pick up a fire truck, a tanker, a brush truck, or what have you, and then have to go to a scene. So if you've got 3 people as your average response and you're taking 3 pieces of equipment, you've got 3 drivers. Where's your firefighters? These are the kind of thoughts you need to be having. And again, if I may approach. Sure.
Can I ask a quick question on this?
Yes, sir.
So, under the 111 building fire classification, does that also include things that were toned out as a building fire, but maybe a volunteer arrived on scene within a couple minutes, happened to be around the corner and says, okay, somebody burnt something on the stove and everything's under control, but go ahead and get 1 unit to come in and maybe some people back off of the call response, or are these actual statistics for working building fires?
When the firefighter returns to the station to do the fire incident report that you heard Brandon talking about earlier, they have to choose which category they want to put in. And there is a category for those things that are building fire or fires that were in. Right, you know the drill. So I can't technically attest to all of the calls that were listed there being structurally involved.
Okay.
But when they came back and they classified them as building fire, there was some form of building involvement. That could have been anything from a kitchen stovetop to room and contents to total structural involvement. I would have no way of knowing that.
Okay. All right.
So I would err on the part of some level of safety by saying, sure, that makes sense, that some of them would be that way. And to reinforce that, I offer the second one that you just received that said, here are some numbers for all calls to give you an average of what all those calls are. And again, Mr. Chairman, if I may approach.
Sure.
I'm not flooding you with documents, but it is of importance. This one, Mr. Luckadoo, this one, the last one that I handed you, actually breaks it down a little bit more in detail from those building calls as far as what kind of fire it was per station. In other words, it shows what friendly fire did to a cooking fire or a forest fire or a grass fire, and it breaks down for every fire station that same response.
I just got a little ahead of.
No, sir. No, those are the kind of legitimate tactical questions when you're doing an assessment that naturally you want to go through. Is that I think the trouble, I want to just reinforce the work that Brandon's done with this software package. To me, that is such an important project because, quite frankly, image trend is awful. And so our ability to generate specific reports with that kind of assessment question is incredibly limited. I think Brandon does a good job with it. We have resources that he reaches out to, but I think that image trend, its weakness is its report generation capability. I'm very excited about being able to change that software. But it is what we have to live with, those numbers that are before us. Mr. Cease?
Yeah, I've got a question.
Please.
You look down at the averages is, anywhere from less than 2 to a little over, up to 3. So do you guys practice the 2 in, 2 out rule for interior firefighting?
The only answer I can give you standing at this podium being recorded and the public hearing me would be yes, sir, because if I said anything less, then I'm violating OSHA standards and laws and best practices as established by agencies like NFPA. So certainly we would have to. And I think that your train of thought is right on spot with mine. What we have to do in this county and have done very, very successfully over the past decade or so is, okay, if I can only give you 2, then I'm going to tone you out and I get 2, and I tone you out and I get 3, and I tone you out and I get 4, and collectively all of a sudden now we've got 8 or 9 people put together. The weakness to that, and again, the part you have to continue mining is, okay, everybody brought a fire truck. So if I got 6 people there and I got 6 fire trucks, everybody's still a driver, they're not an interior firefighter. And you've had testimony at this podium very recently where an individual said, I drove a truck, I got off the truck, somebody else showed up, I gave them the truck, and I fought fire. But if you do that without 2 in, 2 out, it is what you have to do sometime. And as a participant and a primary person with this new OSHA standard, one of the things we try and incorporate in an OSHA standard that's coming is a clause that says when the individual recognizes imminent life threat, that 2 in and 2 out has been suspended. And I think that's logical, but that doesn't exist today. So the technical answer would be you have to have those considerations. And furthermore, I gave you the number earlier of 264 total, 94 being interior firefighters. So then the next question you have to ask yourself is, out of those 2 or 4 or 6 or whatever the numbers are, how many of those individuals are of that 94? So let me just use Friendly as an example. We've got 24 persons. Proud of them. They are just, I just love them to death. 16 of those individuals are firefighter 1 or firefighter 2. Those 16 individuals who were firefighter 1 and firefighter 2 got it because we had an affiliation with the city of Newberry, either current, past, present, or whatever the case may be. But nonetheless, we have a good representation and strength of firefighter 1 and firefighter 2. The problem with it is that on any given 8 to 5 day, those individuals are doing what they do for a living. They're all either individual business owners or working at industry inside and outside the county. So when it boils down to it, my 1.89 that you see on that sheet, even those individuals on some of those incidents may not be firefighter 1 or firefighter 2. And I can't speak, just like your example of the building fire types and calls, I can't speak to everybody in the county. I don't know what they're training, and I don't know what those individuals are. I know that your staff and I have had those conversations about how do we track and how do we assess that, see how stable those average responses are. I don't know the answer to that. I think that deserves much more research and work. But I know it's a weakness. No matter how you look at it, it's a weakness. Now, do we get the job done? Absolutely. I've had firemen say, well, there's no more fires still burning. Of course not. I mean, that's a somewhat of an elementary statement to make. We do very good work with very hard-hitting individuals that just work their hearts out. I'm not taking anything away from them. But I think, again, it's unfair to the 6,400 or so people that live inside of Friendly's district around the city of Newberry if they don't understand the fact of what they're getting and who they're getting and start planning for the future of how we improve and how we get better. And that's really what these 8 points are about, is how do we look at some of these numbers and say, what can we do to improve, because we're skating on thin ice. Whether it's with 2 in, 2 out, or whatever the case may be. May I approach again? Sure. The document you have before you now is talking about response times. Because again, in a fire scenario, you've got the time it is required for a homeowner, an individual, an occupant to be alerted to the presence of fire, to recognize something going on in those minute, 2, 3, whatever it takes for that person to learn that there is an emergency at their home. Then they're going to notify 911, and 911 has time to process that call. And then they're going to dispatch somebody, and that individual is going to have to leave wherever they are in their life at the time and either go to the fire station and get a truck or go from that location to a scene. And so you've got either a time to go to a fire station and get a truck, or you've got the time to get from that fire truck, leaving its station, to the scene. Typically, in the fire service world, and I challenge you to Google this, don't take my word for it, you will find flashover occurring. If nothing changes inside of a room and contents fire, flashover in that room will occur within 3 to 4 minutes. And then the total contents of that house after that flashover has occurred in that room usually happens about 5 to 6 minutes. And at a 15-minute point in time, there's usual total structural involvement in the house. So at that 15-minute mark, there's really not a survivable space in that house. So then what I want to know as fire chief is how long does it take me to get a resource on scene, whatever that resource may be, to start affecting change, start making positive outcome. And the one thing that Image Trend tracks for us is it tracks the amount of time from dispatch to arrival of those pieces of apparatus that are owned by the county. So here before you in that document that I just provided are a record of 320 building fires in some form of structure. Mr. Luckadoo, I don't know that I can give you any better breakdown other than the fact it's just a building fire, and how long it took to get a fire truck to those 320 calls throughout the county. Now, this is again statistics. This is math, okay? There has to be a margin of error in all of these things, because if you will look at the very bottom of your page, that I think is certainly an anomaly. I don't believe that some of those numbers are accurate. It's what's entered into the system. It's data that's entered in the report. But what is pertinent about that document is that there is a bell-shaped curve. You'll see the first numbers relatively low, and then right in that middle, those numbers surge and then drop back off to an extremely low number again for the duration of that report. That bell curve, those higher numbers in the middle, represents your best chance of accuracy for assessing how long it takes that truck to get to the scene after it's been dispatched. And if you'll call your attention to the fact that I would say it starts somewhere around 9 minutes and peaks out again at about 19 to 20 minutes. So we're saying, based on factual information through your software and your system and your material, that in time of dispatch to arrival for the 320 structural type fires, that it takes somewhere between 9 and 19 to 20 minutes to get a fire truck to that location. Refer back, please, to what I said about the typical, please Google, timeframes of rooming content, structural involvement, or non-survivable life space. Again, much maligned, but simply a factual content. So based on some of these numbers and the discussions I had, I came up with an 8-point discussionary topic plan. And I would like to give you a copy of that. Leave that with you. Mr. Luckadoo has this. Mr. Shacker has this. We have talked about this in a number of forums. May I approach again? Sure. And I want to discuss these in a particular order, and I don't want to hang you up immediately on the first one, because quite frankly, I think the order of it flows a little bit better. There's certainly a monetary impact to this. There's no way around it. I have heard comments to the effect of take over, they're in charge, they're going to take over, we don't need, it's going to run off volunteers, on and on and on. I can't, you know the routine, and I can't tell you the number of things that I've heard, but quite frankly, quite the opposite is true. Again, going back to that sowing and reaping analogy. If we don't do something for our volunteers, we're going to continue losing them at an accelerated pace than we already are. Again, I challenge you, don't take my word for it, ask your staff to generate for you age reports of those 264 individuals. Now, that's not a reflection of their heart. Their heart is big as the moon. But the capability of someone that's my age and older is greatly limited by someone who's 20 or 30 years old. My mind still operates on that level, my body does not. And so the necessity of having something that would complement your volunteer system is a necessity to ensure it is prolonged and kept. I do not espouse getting rid of volunteers. I do not espouse replacing volunteers. I think it is ludicrous for Newberry County to assume at this point in the evolution of our county that probably any of us will see volunteers go away in our lifetime, or certainly in our involvement with local government. It's just not going to happen. We can do things, though, that will help, will aid the local fire chief, the local fire officials, the firefighters, the apparatus operators, and that's what I'm espousing. And I'm just saying simply that if you do not do those things, you better get ready. There are easily in Newberry County haves, think they haves, and have-nots. And it's not up to me for you to offer a definition of where those individuals fall. But there is clearly portions of this county that are represented in this room tonight that struggle to get trucks out the door, to struggle to get people on fire scenes, and that are geographically so isolated that by the grace of God we've been able to rely on each other helping, but simply as we progress in age and development, and as we continue to develop our lake shores and our interstate corridor, we're running the wheels off this thing. And we've got to have an investment. I don't stand here and anticipate or expect you to take my word for it. I don't expect you to implement this thing as some gospel and it happens immediately. But I am asking, and I certainly do expect, there's got to be some help and relief. I know your phone has been ringing off the hook with people who are scared to death of this, but there are people sitting behind me tonight that will tell you too, if we don't do something, we're in trouble. Point number one, we need a county fire coordinator in this county. Now, we've got great employees. This has nothing to do, I like both of these fellas. In a weaker moment, I hired one of them, okay? But they are good people. Originally, when one of them was designed to be brought on, the title was supposed to be Emergency Services Coordinator, Fire Coordinator, arguably even Parks and Rescue Squad, and it wasn't done. Now, we blame whoever's wisdom it was to do or not do that. But what these two people are doing and what they stood up here and reported tonight's grand. But none of what they talked about tonight's in their job description. I got a copy of them. So, yeah, they're doing it. Thank you, both of you. But wouldn't it be nice, like Saluda County, Greenwood County, Lawrence County, Fairfield County, I sat with Abbeville County, Chief Minnick and I did this weekend, and the list keeps going on, to have somebody that represents me as a volunteer fire chief and my members on a day in and day out basis, helping us administratively get things done. This morning, we had 2 fire calls today. This morning, I spent time talking about a broken airline, about pumps on a brush truck and water and the lack thereof in it. I dealt with a V-Safe grant application that came out. It's like this every day. And I need somebody to help me. I'm not a full-time employee. I do have a paid gig over here that I try to keep at. We deserve and need to have representation and a person entitled fire coordinator. And I ain't gonna tell you how to get there. I gave Mr. Shacker some examples of those job descriptions from those counties around, so he's got that. But how you get there, I think you play that wisdom. That's not for me to say. Do we have somebody on staff, or do we need to go outside, develop a good job description and get the best person and pay the person to do the job? That may be in this room, it may be out of this county. That's not for me to say. We need a fire coordinator. We need some part-time apparatus operators, firefighters, and arguably those individuals could be EMTs. We need people working 8 to 5 in this county for county government, for this fire coordinator, that like today, this morning, we had a call at a southern location of this county, a overturned vehicle, possibly on fire, possible entrapment. Tone the station, no response. Tone the station, no response. Tone the station, no response. Tone another station to get somebody to come over there. 20 minutes elapsed before we get somebody in a car that's overturned, it's possibly on fire, and possibly entrapped. If that's your sister, mama, daughter, whoever you want to put in there, how do you feel about that? You can eliminate that and alleviate that by having some individuals who are trained that would rove around this county on an 8 to 5 basis, and today they may be in Chapels. Tomorrow they may be in Fairview. The next day they may be in Friendly, checking trucks, getting air packs ready, and responding to calls. And my argument is that I've had with some of my rescue EMS folks is it's quite natural these days to have firefighters that are EMTs too. These people need as much help as we do. Why don't cross-train them and put them in QRVs so they go everywhere? That only makes sense to me. That's stepping over boundary lines. That's mine, not yours. I get it. I've said in here that it's not my intent to start minding the business of EMS or rescue. That's not my purview. But the wisdom of what we've got to do, and one of the parts in this plan is we need to start master planning for our emergency services in this county. One of the 8 points is the fact that we need to start this year creating a master plan document that starts outlining for you, as well as for us, truck replacement, staffing and people, growth in the county, station placement, policy, procedure, on and on and on and on and on. We need a master plan. Because I'm afraid what he's doing and what he's doing and what I'm doing, we're all coming, there's 21 chiefs in this county. And all 21 of us are coming to you doing this. Because we're fighting for ourselves. I don't want Friendly to die. So I'm going to fight as hard as I can to get and keep what Friendly needs. Times 21. Is that really what's smart for us? I don't think so. We need an opportunity to master plan, to create that document so we all know where we're going for the future, financially and otherwise. And it would be real easy for you to say, well, why don't we get an existing group of individuals to do that? Why don't we give that to our fire board? The fire board ought to be doing that for us. Well, if I may approach again, sure. What you have in front of you there is the actual ordinance, straight off the internet, straight off your website, that what the rural fire board is supposed to do for Newberry County. Nowhere in there does it say policies, procedures. It's awful. It's terrible. It goes to the rudimentary issue that I have that nobody can answer. Who's in charge? As an elected fire chief, am I in charge of what goes on with Friendly? Or is it one of your employees? Is it a county administrator? Is it county council? Is it rural fire board? Well, that statute, that ordinance that's on your books, doesn't give anybody any authority and doesn't give anybody any direction. One of the points in this 8-point plan that I'm giving you is the necessity to reissue language, to reconstruct what that rural fire board does for us, and either give it teeth or get rid of it. But by giving it teeth, it needs to be reconstituted in where it meets, how it meets, the formality of it. Because as fire chief, I need direction. Am I the policymaker or is the fire board the policymaker? Is staff the policymaker? Because one of the things I've asked for as a new chief is I wanted some standard operating procedures that everybody in the county operates on. They don't exist. There was a binder that exists in EOC that somebody through the years has developed, but it's not distributed. Nobody's trained on it. Nobody knows of its existence. I've asked and tried to assess when the last policies and procedures were added to it, and it's vague at best what they were and whether they could be implemented or not. Who's in charge? One of the points, redo the fire board. We struggle with those 264 individuals of how to train them. One of the things that we had for a number of years, thanks to a cooperative opportunity with the city of Newberry, was to have a recruitment and retention person here in the county that at least showed some interest, had some training, put some trained people in my door at Friendly. We lost that position, and I think that one of the weaknesses we have in keeping and getting volunteers is the fact that we rely on a full-time employee with the city of Newberry to train all the people in the county. Now, he's also a volunteer, but he's having to use his paid work time to organize, email, get together classes. He does a great job. But I can't tell a young man or woman walking in my door now, here's what you need to do and here's how you're going to get it, because I don't have a structure. We need a county fire training officer, and that individual needs to be able to run fire calls, but needs to work nights and weekends to get my volunteers. And again, now, this is an opportunity for us to help sustain volunteers in the county, to give them hope. Where I don't have to go to Lexington, Columbia, wherever the case may be to get my training. I can do it right here. We've got good facility. We just don't have anybody doing it. Training officer. If you're not aware by the discussions coming for you tonight, we have a severe deficiency in rolling stock apparatus, fire trucks. The last document I saw that I think Tommy put together, and I'm sure this is old at this point, we had 7 apparatus that were over the age of 20 years. First due apparatus over the age of 20 years. Friendly Fire Department's got a 20-year-old lead engine, a 20-year-old tanker, and a 26-year-old backup engine. And the bad part about it is that 26-year-old backup engine runs better than my 2 new ones that are 20 years old. And there's no plan whatsoever other than the fact that, God bless you, but sow generously, reap generously, council buys 1 a year. You'll never get out of that hole. You're never going to get out of that hole. And I told this to Mr. Shacker, I could write you a $10 million check today and it's not going to get you out of the hole. So I don't have any expectations of coming here today and saying that we've got to come up with some scheme that automatically, magically, we're going to come up with a dozen fire apparatus, because I don't think that's practical. But what is practical is what's your plan? Mr. Shacker had some great ideas that he's been talking to me about. I know he shared with Mr. Luckadoo as well. That'll take a couple of years, but I think he's got a good plan. What's our plan to get out of the hole? Now, 1 a year is great, but 1 a year is not solving the problem. And remember that 3-legged stool? We're going to build Friendly one incredible fire station that we're going to share with Station 14. It's an incredible building. But if he doesn't have ambulances and I don't have fire trucks, and we ain't got people, you're going to have a really nice looking building. There's 3 legs of that stool. One of them is this rolling stock. And the next to the last part in this is full-time paid staff. Going back to that response time chart again. One of the things that I think is a detriment to Newberry County is the fact that we're so fractionalized. And if you're standing outside this building, you're in the city, but if you go a couple of blocks that way, you're in the county. It's ridiculous that we've got all these lines. We should be taking advantage of working with the city of Newberry and other towns in this county to come up with a master plan about how we're going to staff paid people 24/7. Now, that is the most controversial thing out of this whole thing people are going to call you about. Somebody's taken over. Somebody's in charge. They're going to come and whatever. And I don't know whether that's an insecurity or a lack of communication on my part, but that's not the intent. The intent is how can we reduce some of those response times and increase the number of people? And we've got a partner that's willing to help us with that, and that they're trying to come up with the mutual funding from the city to be able to institute a shift of individuals that'll go anywhere in Newberry County with an apparatus to any of the target calls that we're talking about. And that building fires, maybe wrecks, hazmat, aerial truck things. And we've done that for, oh, good Lord, since the late 90s when we first got into the aerial truck business. We just rely on their good graces to staff it to come when they can. I'm suggesting in this plan we need to formalize that and start talking about how we put a crew that responds everywhere. Now, the concern with that is that we had clearly expressed was that a crew here in town may take 30 minutes to get to me to where I am in and around this county because of my extreme location. My contention is so will your mutual aid partners, because if you call me at Friendly, it's going to take me the same amount of time. Plus, I've got to go to the station and get a truck, whereas a paid staff will cut down those 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes it takes me to go get the truck coming to you. I think there's wisdom in it. We've got to discuss that. And then finally, because I know you get tired of hearing me run on, is we got to pay for it. And Mr. Shacker developed a very good spreadsheet for you to utilize. I've seen it. He is much more talented at Excel spreadsheets than I am. But quite frankly, if you implemented all of this, every bit of it, somewhere between 5 and 9 meals. Wow. How are we going to survive politically, especially in an election year, 5 meals? I don't know, but I do know an option. The option is to do nothing, and then we experience what Calhoun County did this past year. Calhoun County, volunteer system, just like ours, few paid people in St. Matthews, one tax district, their volunteer system was collapsing. And they're more agrarian than us. They have fewer population than us, got less industry than us. And so they were forced into the fact of having to do 17 meals to shore up their volunteer system and put people in place to be able to operate it and run it. And that was primarily due, not at the detriment, I was friends with the St. Matthews fire chief and Sandy Run people and everything, so it's not against them, it's just sow generously, reap generously. Sow poorly, reap poorly. They sowed very poorly. And so there's got to be a lesson learned by everyone at this table about how can we begin to sow generously to try to fix some of these problems. I don't think it's going to happen this budget year. I don't think it can happen this budget year. But I think that if we don't find some parts and pieces in here to start fixing today, planning today, implementing today, up to and including millage, Friendly's in trouble. I'll speak for us. And you can weigh out these folks behind me as to whether they think the same thing. Yes, sir, please.
In your experience,
Yes, sir.
have you ever worked with ESCI?
One more time.
ESCI, Emergency Services Consulting International.
Heard of them, never done any direct work with them.
And I used them for the fire chief search at Lexington County.
Yes, sir.
But they provide master planning services and they'll bring people in and stuff. And I pulled their website up while we were sitting here and I didn't know if you had worked with
I have
them
not.
previously or
Yes, sir.
had any thoughts.
I know they've done not only Lexington County, but I think they were involved in some in Greenville County as well. I mean, some
I
of the
know they
searches
do
and
a
things
lot
they've
of
done. Yes, they have.
executive search, fire chief searches, but I saw the long-range master planning, strategic planning and stuff
Getting-
specifically related to fire service.
Getting someone to facilitate like that, I think would be very important and would behoove us greatly, because what we need to do is we need to sit and have a collective conversation about what we're gonna do with people, trucks, and get a consensus. And quite frankly, I've not been able to build that over the past 4 months, because you've gotten the phone calls, right? So you know. It's gonna take some talent to be able to facilitate that conversation to keep us on track, because quite frankly, what'll happen in those discussions is we're gonna vary down rabbit holes like, what are we gonna do about 800 radios, and on and on and on, and it will drift. So a facilitated conversation would be great, I think. Questions, please?
Carl?
I realize that, and I've been on the board the last couple of years, and I realize, we're way behind. At one time, they had a plan, they were gonna buy a truck every year for 10 years, and, well, they didn't do that. So, I mean, it's not our fault, it just, something fell off, it didn't happen, because we didn't have a plan. So we definitely gotta get a plan together and start thinking about the future. We can't do it all at once, but if we start chipping away, making piece, eventually we'll get there. But we definitely gotta have a plan and get some type of structure. We work all together and have little pieces where you can have people during the daytime respond, because, you know, just like EMS, we got some work to do there, like in Silver Street and stuff, and working stuff. Those citizens need 24/7 protection just like everybody else. And when they call 911, they expect somebody to show up. And, you know, same way with me. If I have to call 911, I expect somebody to show up.
You're spot on, exactly correct, and I think the good thing that you have, and you have friends that exist in counties around us, we've got so many good models around us. Fairfield County has been through this, Lawrence County has been through this, Greenwood County has been through this to a lesser degree, but nonetheless, Saluda County's been through this. So a phone call, hey, what'd you do? How'd you manage this? I mean, I've done that, I think that you should as well. You've got those contemporaries, those counterparts that exist in those places. Fairfield County had this exact same discussion 7, 8 years ago. Mr. Taylor was at the helm when that happened in Fairfield County. We can talk to him. I mean, so we are not creating and inventing something that is foreign and has never been done before. Quite the contrary, it's been done all around us, and we're just the last one.
Do you have any comments, questions?
No, I tend to agree about the long-range master planning, and I think there's something to be said about an intermediate facilitator of that process, leading that charge, doing an independent evaluation and review, and that's no knock on this.
None taken, none taken.
Whatsoever.
None taken.
But I also think they create you a roadmap based on your current situation and funding, and I think there's something to be said about an independent source making recommendations for you to implement, and it's not coming from Joe Palmer, or it's not coming from someone else within Newberry County. This is an independent audit of where you are with a vision of where you should go, who comes from someone with no ties.
I would
I
appreciate.
can see potential value in that study being done.
Completely agree with you, and I think that.
First meeting, but
No.
outside looking in.
It would be a validation, I think, of what we think we know. I think it's a grand idea. Completely support it.
Chief, I thank you for your work on it. Thank Brandon and Tommy for helping you with extracting the data from it, putting it in front of us, and it gives us tools that we can take a look at, build from. And I've had 40 years of experience with, when I started my career off with the junior program, worked my way up to a full-time position, and still volunteer now. And I understand the inner works day in, day out. I listen to the radio, listen to the calls, and I live it, breathe it, understand it, but I see what is in front of us, and we've got work to do, and thank you for all of your hard work in extracting the data, and we'll work hard on working with it.
Thanks, sir. Thank you.
We thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay. I think it's public comments. Do we have any? Okay, first, Mr. Terry Rawls.
I'm assuming you're saying Terry Russell, huh?
Terry Russell, I'm sorry. Yeah, and can you state your name and your address? 3 minutes.
I will. I'm Terry Russell, Fire and Rescue Chief, Stations 10 and 15 in Chapels. First of all, I'd be foolish to say we need help in the fire service. I'm truly a station that is a have-not. We have 10 members. Although I will say with my assistant chief here, we had a brush fire. I got 3 trucks, 5 people, and 3 interior firefighters that incident right now. So 1.8, we got that beat. I guess you guys got the plan that comments 1 through 8 on the proposed plan?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I just had some questions, and maybe Joe can help or go through these. I'm assuming this is a continuing millage increase if this were to go through, or is it 1 year only?
Well, we're gonna have to work on that.
Right.
This is only planning stage and take a look at it,
Yep.
data.
At a 9 mil increase, if it's not a 4 mil, if it's a 9 mil increase, one-time funding source still needed to overcome the capital deficit. What's the capital deficit? I mean, our
6,
20,
7.
yeah. All right. 9 mils won't accommodate the current vehicle capital deficit. And we were talking about the rolling stock. There's been a rolling stock plan for years. And the Emergency Services Director puts in the budget what we need in multiple years. It's been multiple units. But they're not bought. Some of this goes back, and it's not, it's got to be a council, an administrator issue. It's not just the fire service. If the Emergency Services Director asks for equipment and it's cut out of the budget, where do we go? It kind of relates back to the Board of Rural Fire Control. It does not have any teeth. I'm on that board. If we say we need 5 trucks and we don't get 5 trucks and it's in the budget, we don't have any teeth. If that continues, I'll just sacrifice and I'll end my participation with the board at the end of the year. I'd like to know what as far as property taxes collected, and talking about millage, property tax collected by the county was, it'll be due June 30th. It's proposed to be $26.5 million. The city of Newberry is at 2.6 million. So the county's portion of the property tax for millage is going to be 90-10. The plan that's presented certainly doesn't represent that to the county versus the city. To me, this is just me. I'd just like to know what the plan is for the year. I've seen none of the documents you guys saw tonight, except the plan.
Right.
Okay? I haven't seen any of the figures, 1.8 and all that stuff. I am definitely not in the way of hiring what we need to do and getting equipment for what we need to get the job done. Having paid firefighters in the city doesn't help the people of Chapels one bit, because they're still 36 minutes away. I get that. If it helps the county, God bless, okay? I just need to know more.
Right, Mr. Terry, I gotta keep it to 3 minutes. Longer time, you had to sign up, put it on the document.
Okay, that's good.
And I thank you.
Yep. Thank you for guys letting me talk.
Sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. Paul Cromer?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah.
Can you state your name and your address?
Yeah, sure. Fairview Fire Department, 1961 Super Road, Prosperity.
Thank you.
I just want to kind of back Joe up here. My career started in late 70s with Lexington County, and I was one of about 10 paid firefighters working a 24-hour shift under the CETA program. So the government was funding that. But I take that forward to where I've been blessed, and I've been able to be as a volunteer, a commendation fire department, and then we eventually became a paid department. There's no doubt, and there's been no doubt in my mind and other members' mind at Fairview that we need help, and we've known that for a long time. And Joe brought up a call we had this morning, trying to stay where I can respond trucks. I come to the gym at the YMCA several times a week. I get down about the Prosperity area, and we're toned out for overturned vehicle with entrapment and fire. All I could think about was, that person ain't gonna make it. I don't think they're gonna make it. I was on an ops channel, not dispatch channel, and I don't know how long it took for us to get a truck out, but I know that for me, from Prosperity way down that far to the lake was an easy 15-minute run. From me, Prosperity to the station was probably 10 minutes. From the station to that call is probably around 12 to 13 minutes. If we'd had somebody in that station, that person's chance of survival, and thank God it was not a fire, would have been increased significantly. But let's just stop and back up for a second. If you look at what it takes, they say there's 14 roles that have to be accomplished on the scene of a fire. 14 different things that'll be done. So I leave out, and I've got another 65 to 70-year-old gentleman with me. What are we gonna be able to do? But out of those 14 things, we've got to prioritize. We're not even talking about a house fire with entrapment. that's a whole different situation. And as I stand back in all my years of firefighting, that's the one thing I focus on about 90% of the time. My priority is life safety. And we just can't do the job I think we should be able to do today without having some paid firefighters. There shouldn't be any fiefdom out there, shouldn't be anything above and beyond us doing what's best for the county. So us at Fairview, we would tell y'all, we're very interested in getting paid firefighters. And we understand that like Lexington County and other counties, that you have to crawl before you can walk. So if all y'all can afford is 2, we'd love to see more, but we would be happy with 2. My theory is something is better than nothing. So we appreciate y'all gentlemen taking that into consideration, but we're definitely looking forward to seeing some paid guys not too far down the road.
Thank you for your service and thank you for your support.
Thank y'all for your ear tonight. Appreciate it, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Okay. Do we have any comments? Carl?
I'd just like to say, we have different groups all over the county. Some of them have more volunteers than the other. So, we have some stations that definitely need help. And we just got to work to, if we can get some paid firefighters, that way they can roam around. They can, especially during the daytime, that's when we have the least amount of response because a lot of people are working at their jobs and they just can't respond. They may be working outside the county. They may be an hour away from their normal station at their regular job. There's no way they can respond. So if we had a few that would roam around, just like they've been discussing, they can go to different places like that, it could improve our response time to the different calls. And I think we need to definitely move forward and get a plan together, have a group come in, independent, do an evaluation of what we need. And because we talked about it a couple of years ago, it was in our budget to do that, and it didn't get done. And we just need to do that, get us a master plan together so we can move forward in the future. Because I'm telling you, we tried to put some things in place to kind of slow down the growth in the county, the building and stuff like that. But it's coming our way. I mean, we're situated right between Columbia, Greenville, and Spartanburg, and we got I-26 right out there. I'm telling you, it's coming, so we got to be able to prepare for it, and that's why we put some things in development fees to try to get some money from development to help, put into rolling stock and help our fire service and stuff. And Jeff has done a great job with the Greenwood Newberry Industrial Park with some of those fee and taxes we're coming to. We set up an income stream coming from that would just go to capital projects so we could buy some extra equipment and stuff. So hopefully it'll keep building in the future so we can help do that. But we got to do some other things. Could be millage. We just got to come up with a plan to help our firefighters out that will help our citizens out. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to also say thank you for all your hard work, day in and day out. We have come a long ways, and my support's for everyone, and I've talked to several members of council about what we're facing, so we've got it, we're working on it. We just got to continue to see which way the best plan, but we will be working hard to try to find out the best solution for it. But thank you. Okay, do we have a motion for adjournment?
I'll make that motion.
Got one, I'll second, and all in favor? Aye. Meeting is over.